You ever look at some people and just wonder, how do they do it? How do they seem to just thrive on challenges while others kind of crumble at the first sign of trouble? It's like some people are always growing, always pushing forward, and others just feel, well, stuck.
It's a really fascinating question when you think about it, right? You see it everywhere. Two people can face the exact same setback. For one, it's a total dead end. But for the other, it's like a launching pad. So, what's the real difference between them?
You might immediately think, well, it's got to be about raw talent, or maybe just how smart someone is. But the research actually points to something else, something much more fundamental. According to the psychologist Carol S. Dweck, the real key is your mindset.
And look, this isn't just some feel-good motivational idea. Mindset is a real, scientifically backed concept. It's basically the internal lens you use to see absolutely everything, your own potential, your abilities, your entire future. Think of it as the quiet narrator telling the story of your life inside your head.
Okay, so let's really dive into this. What Dr. Dweck's research found is that most of us operate from one of two core mindsets, and depending on which one you have, you're living in one of two completely different psychological worlds.
So on one side, you've got the fixed mindset. This is the belief that your abilities, your intelligence, your talents, they're just carved in stone. You've got a certain amount, and that's pretty much it. So when you fail, it feels like a final judgment on who you are. But on the other side, you have the growth mindset. This is the belief that your abilities can be developed, that you can get better through dedication, hard work, and trying different strategies. With this mindset, failure isn't a verdict. It's just really valuable feedback.
All right, so how does this actually play out in the real world? Let's get away from the theory for a second, because this is where it all gets incredibly powerful. Well, let's talk about Michael Jordan. I mean, everybody knows his name. We tend to think of him as the absolute peak of natural talent, right? A superstar who was just born to play the game. But that's not the whole story.
Yep, you heard that right. The guy who would become a global icon, one of the greatest of all time, was once told he wasn't even good enough to make his high school team.
So what happens at a moment like that? I mean, if you have a fixed mindset, that is absolutely devastating. You'd probably think, well, I guess I just don't have what it takes. And you might even quit. But what did Michael Jordan do?
He didn't see that rejection as a final verdict. He saw it as a starting point. He used that failure as fuel. He spent endless hours in the gym, just relentlessly working on his weaknesses. That rejection didn't define him. His response to it did. And that response? That was a growth mindset in action. That's the difference.
And check this out. This idea is shown perfectly in a famous experiment. Researchers gave a test to a bunch of students. Afterwards, they praised one group for their intelligence, saying things like, wow, you must be really smart. The other group they praised for their process, saying, wow, you must have worked really hard. The results? They were absolutely stunning. When both groups were given a much harder problem next, the smart kids totally shied away. They were afraid to fail and lose that smart label. But the effort kids, they dug in even deeper. They loved the challenge.
Okay, so this brings up a really important question. Are we just born with one of these mindsets? Is it just part of our personality? Well, the answer seems to be no. We actually learn them.
Our mindset gets built, almost brick by brick, from the kinds of messages we hear over and over again as we grow up. The praise, the feedback we get from the really important people in our lives, our parents, our teachers, our coaches, all of that shapes the deep beliefs we form about ourselves.
And it often comes down to really subtle, small differences in the language we use. Saying something like, you're a genius, sends a clear message. Success is about some innate quality that you either have or you don't. But praising the process, saying you worked so incredibly hard on that, sends a completely different message. It says that success comes from effort, and effort is something you can always control.
Okay, so this brings us to what is maybe the most important, most powerful part of this whole idea. If our mindsets are learned, that means they aren't permanent. They can be unlearned.
So, here's the big question. Can you actually change your mindset? Can you really shift from a fixed way of thinking to a growth mindset, especially if you've been living with one for, your whole life? And the answer from science is a huge, resounding yes. We actually have the proof. Neuroscience shows us that every time you learn new things and really challenge yourself, your brain physically forms new and stronger neural connections. Your brain isn't fixed at all. It's literally designed to grow and change. You really can teach an old brain new tricks.
So how do you even start? Well, first, just start to notice that fixed mindset voice. We all have it. It's that little voice that pops up when you face a tough challenge. The one that says, I can't do this, or what if I fail and look stupid? When you hear it, don't just let it take over. Actually talk back to it, but with a growth perspective. So instead of just I can't do it, try adding one simple, powerful word at the end. Yet. I can't do it yet. See? That one word changes everything. And finally, just shift your focus. Start celebrating the effort, the learning, the process, not just the final score.
So, the next time you're facing a challenge or you hit a real setback, I want you to ask yourself this one simple question. Is this failure the end of the story? Or is it maybe just chapter 1 of a comeback story you haven't written yet? Because the choice and the mindset, that is all yours.